So this is basically the story on how I made $1 million on a complete accident. So a few years ago when I first graduated college, I decided that I was gonna be an entrepreneur. I told myself, all right, I don't wanna have the regular job like everybody else, so I'm gonna go ahead and figure this whole entrepreneurship thing out. So what ended up happening is I tried a whole bunch of different businesses out, and I told myself, okay, cool. If I am 22 years old, I can use the rest of my 20s to just figure out how to make money on my own without having to clock in. And at that time, I was going to college for computers to understand, computer science, management, information system, that whole spiel. So I did that, but when I graduated, I was like, all right, boom. I don't want to work in computers at all. I just want to figure out how to make money on my own. So what I end up doing is making a big sheet of businesses and just starting from the top all the way down to the bottom. And while I was working my way through all the businesses and just trying different things out, I stumbled on the mobile notary business. And to be honest, when people ask me how did I get into the mobile notary business, really shout out to my uncle. He was the one that said like, hey, you should try out mobile notaries. And he told me to check these different influencers out. So I just started doing a little bit of research, learning about the mobile notary industry. And what I can say is when I first got into the industry, I was just doing, the same thing most notaries are doing, getting your commission, driving to different locations, and just signing the papers. So these were one of the few businesses that I've done where I was like, okay, this is boring, but it makes money. And being young, being 22 years old, I was telling myself like, all right, I want to do something else. So even though the mobile notary business was making money, I was working for myself. It wasn't substantial at that point. It wasn't the amount of money where I was like, to be honest, it wasn't even $5,000 consistently a month. It was just, I'm driving to these different signings, I'm getting my $50, I'm getting my $75, I'm getting my $100, and then I'm done. So it was good like pocket change for me. So I always respected the mobile notary industry or just the notary industry in general, because it was one of those businesses that kind of reminded me of like the tax business, which I also did in my journey, but that's another story. But it kind of reminded me of like the tax business where it's not flashy. You don't hear people talking about it on social media all the time, but it's one of those businesses where people are always gonna need it. People are gonna always need a notary until, it can be done 100% virtually with robots, which might not happen anytime soon because it's an authentication type of thing. But anyways, I knew that mobile notary business was gonna be around for a while. It was just boring to me. Like I wasn't really interested in doing it and it wasn't exciting to me. So it was always one of those businesses that I kept on the side and I fell back on. So I always tried out different businesses, like just doing websites and doing Airbnb and doing like Turo, and I tried all these other businesses, but anytime they failed or anytime I needed money, because like I said, I was a full-time entrepreneur, I always fell back on the mobile notary business because it was one of those things where I was like, okay, it might not be fun, but if I gotta pay rent at the end of this month, I know how to get clients and I know that I can provide this service and make money for myself. So boom, like I said, while I was doing the mobile notary business, I tested out all these other businesses. So as time went on, I started to hit and started to do really good in my other companies and make money. But as the years went on, just being a new person with money, which the story happens to a lot of people, you make a lot of money, and then with some mismanagement, helping out family, doing things that you wouldn't have done, like eating out all the time, I started to dwindle down, until the point where I kind of hit like a rock bottom. And I always call it like, that was one of my rock bottoms where I was extremely broke, way more broke than I was when I even graduated college. And I was broke then. And that really happened because the more money you have with mismanagement, you can put yourself in a worse position than you are when you just don't have any money. So completely effed up. I completely effed up the money and I had to go back on my ass and teach myself like, okay, cool. I need money now because now I'm super broke. And then where did that lead me back to? The same old business, the same business that has always come to help me out in the past. And it was the mobile notary business. So when I got to the point where I was like, okay, you know what? I don't have time to test out all these new businesses that I'm seeing on social media, all these flashy stuff that people are talking about. I just need money to pay rent. I fell back on the notary business again because I'm like, all right, cool. I can do this. I can stamp these papers. I can take my little behind home and I can have my money to pay rent. Because at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm at rock bottom. I need to pay off these debts. And honestly, I just need to get back to the point where I'm making at least $5,000 a month. So when people ask me like, oh man, how did you make your first million in the notary business? I'm like, I wasn't even trying to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't even trying to do that in the beginning. And I'll walk you to the point where I started seeing that it was possible. So 100% happened by accident in the sense that, oh shoot, I'm actually here. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, rewinding, I hit the point where it was rock bottom, and I was like, all right, I need to do something where I know that I'm going to get my money. I am going to pay my rent, because all this stuff sounds cool, but what's going to pay me out by the end of this week so I can pay rent by the 1st or by the 31st? And it was the notary business. So I ended up doing all of that just to come right back to the notary business. And then at that point, I was just doing my signings again. So my second round, I was doing my signings again, doing different businesses as a notary, making my money. So boom, it worked again by being able to provide me money, provide me income. So I was working my way back up to the totem pole from where I effed up the first time. So while I was doing this, while I was back in the notary business, I was like, you know what? The notary business is cool, but I want to be able to find a way to work from the neck up, because I've always been the type of kid that wanted to work with computers. Hence the reason why I went to school for computers. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, I want to be able to work from the neck up, meaning I want to work from here up, meaning I want to use my mind to make money. I shouldn't have to go out to these signings and stamp papers in order to make money. There has to be a way where I can use my mind and use my tech savviness in order to make money. And then I started formulating different ideas. I started synthesizing different ideas. And then I realized, you know what? I don't even have to leave the house to make money. My whole philosophy was, even if I can make less money with each of these signings, I'll still rather do that than driving from location to location. Because at this point in the notary industry, I got tired. I got tired of driving. Like, before I lived here out in Miami, before I even lived here, I was like, okay, I'm tired of driving an hour down to Miami to stamp these papers, or driving an hour to Miami to the point where, oh my gosh, the person canceled, then I have to drive all the way back home. So I'm like, all right, let me work from the neck up. So what ended up happening was, I was at home and I ended up getting a call. And one of these calls asked me to notarize a document in like somewhere in like North Florida. And at this time I was in Boca Raton, Florida, near Boca Raton, West Palm Beach. And they needed the signing done. So I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can find a way to middleman this. Once I did that, I reached out to a notary that I knew that was in Northern Florida and asked them if they could do the document. So for example, let's say I charged the client $100. I was like, you know what? I'll take the job and I'll just find a notary that could do it. Took the job for $100, called that notary over that location that I knew and said like, hey, I got this job. They paid this. You can have this 50%. I can have my 50%. Can you do that? They were like, oh yeah, sure. So when they said sure, I was like, okay, cool. They went to the location, they notarized it. I told them to just call me after, let me know how everything goes. They called me back after that, let me know how everything went, and I Cash Apped them that $1. Actually, I don't think I had Cash App at that time. I had Zelle, because Cash App banned me. I had Zelle at that time. I Zelled them $50, and then I was sitting there at my crib, and I was just like, I just made $50 doing nothing. I think I went to the bathroom, waited an hour or two. They called me back. I made $50 doing absolutely nothing. So at that point, I just hit like my mind went completely off to the point where I was like, whoa, you know what? I can make money not even having to leave the house anymore, and by staying within the same industry. So at that point, I was like, okay, cool. I got this notary to do it. Imagine if I had way more notaries that are willing to do the same thing. The only thing I need to focus on is how to be the best marketer possible. How can I get the business name out there, and how can I have other notaries want to work with me? So at that point, that's all I started focusing on. I started putting together all the ideas to work with more notaries, do more marketing, and making money without even having to leave the house while staying in the notary industry. So as I started growing and getting more and more clients, I started to research different people that had like signing agencies and signing companies, which is very few. There's very few that are in the industry that teach other people the stuff in the industry, which I can't blame them, because if you're making your money, why even spread the information? You have to have a wanting to do so. So when I was looking at this information, I realized there's very, very, very few people teaching it. Like, guys, there's very few people actually teaching the sauce. So then I had to create a lot of these systems on my own. I found 1 or 2 coaches. They got some good information, started riding with them. But then outside of that, a lot of the stuff, it was just trial and error and just reading books. Reading books, trial and error. That's probably where I got the most of this income and most of the knowledge from, is from these books, to be honest with you. So after the point where 1-2 months passed and I started to get more clients and I started to work with more notaries, I got to the point where I was making about $40,000 a month. And that was in January. No, I'm sorry. That was in December. I remember December I hit $40,000 a month a few years ago. I don't remember what year it was. But at that moment, I was like, you know what? I can make it to $100,000 a month. And then that's when I just started locking in. I was like, all right, cool. If I can make $40,000 a month, and my whole goal was just to make $5,000 a month, I damn sure know I can hit $100,000 a month. So then probably like 3-4 months later, I ended up hitting that $40,000, that $100,000 a month mark. And then I was like, whoa, okay, this is cool. So then naturally, as time went on, I got to the end of the year and I was doing my books and looking back, we realized that we passed $1 million. It was honestly like, I think it was like 1.2 or 1.3. It was like 1.2 or 1.3 million, or it was 1.2 or 1.4. It's between 1.2 million and 1.4 million. Don't remember which one it was. And then we hit that number. I was just like, oh shoot. And then when that happened, it actually just broke a lot of like limiting beliefs. One, that $1 million isn't as much as you think it is. It's like, it's cool, but it's like, the best thing you could do is not think about it as a grand number, because then you're gonna have it as such a huge goal in your mind that you're gonna scare yourself from wanting to achieve it. The best thing you could do is just focus on small goals and just hitting them point by point. How do I get to $10,000 a month? Okay, how do I get to 20? All right, how do I get to 40? It's better to just attack the goals like that. But that's basically my story on how I hit $1 million completely on accident, especially within the mobile notary business. So now every now and then I'll take some students on, I'll teach them how to do that. If you're interested in that, or if you want me to just even look at your notary business, go ahead and hit the booking link down below. I'll walk you through it, or I'll just look at your business and tell you some of the things that you can do to change it up. But that's my story. It wasn't like I wanted to do the notary industry. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I just love signing papers. You know what I'm saying? Like who goes out there and is just like, oh my gosh, my passion is to sign papers. It wasn't my passion. It came from a place of need. Like, I just needed some bread. I needed some money ASAP to pay these bills. But when I looked over the span of my life, the same business industry that kept saving my ass over and over and over again was the notary industry. Because like taxes, it's one of those things that you're gonna always need. People are always gonna need this service. And once you learn how to position yourself and market correctly, you're not having to stress and find out like, oh my gosh, how can I get jobs? How can I find people? You'll put yourself in a position where people are reaching out to you. Because just like when tax season comes around, you look for somebody to do your taxes. You don't just wait and like, well, if April 15th comes and I don't get my taxes done, I'm just not gonna get my taxes done. It's one of those things where it's like, no, I need to get my taxes done. It's like a notary, just like a notary. You need to get this form notarized, you're going to find a notary. So all you have to do, and all I did, was position myself as a notary so that people can find me, and then I can do the jobs for them. So that's the story on how I did it. Was I shocked? I wasn't shocked when I hit $1 million, but it was more so when I look back, I'm like, yo, I was really just doing this stuff just to survive. I was really just like, I just need to get to a point where I'm making this consistent money again. And it just happened. It just happened with constant effort, constant reading of the books. But I know once I've made my money in the past, I knew I could do it again because I had all the knowledge from the past experiences. And then over the years of starting different businesses, becoming successful in them, failing in some, I learned skills that can help me grow the business, this business even faster, or take my notary business to another level. So now I'm here, ended up moving in Miami. I'm chilling right now on the roof overlooking the stadium. Beautiful view, shout out to the Casilla Center. I'm just enjoying life. So that's my story on how I made $1 million on accident in the notary business. If you want some help, like I said, click on the link below. I'll be sure to look at your business, see where I can help you out with. And yeah, I switched up the video style. Hopefully you like guys like this. Just where I'm just telling you my story and explaining out how it works. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, love, knowledge is out.